So you've been competing since 2006 in drug-free bodybuilding. Talk to us a little bit about your introduction to your first shows. How did they go? What did you learn? Carry on until you sort of went pro with the PNBA in 2011. Maybe even touch on comparing your physique sort of then when you were pro to now.
Yeah.
How much you've improved and what you might attribute that to.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing, my first competition in 06 was actually a powerlifting meet. It was a push-pull. So from the start, an interesting thing about me is that I've always been just as interested in strength as I was in bodybuilding. They were the same. So I was training deadlift, squats, bench press, and then doing, you know, volume work, and I had always was splitting them up. And my first competitive bodybuilding shows were in 07. So my first season was 07 in bodybuilding, and I did an unsanctioned push-pull. Just wasn't a part of any affiliation in 06, and so that was my entrance. I was basically a little more than 2 years into training, did a powerlifting meet, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. And around the same time, I went to a show, it was the INBF Iron Eagle, that Rodney Hilaire, who's a heavyweight WNBF world champ from back in the day, was putting on, and I got to be a test judge. The way it works in INBF, WNBF is, you know, if you're someone who could potentially be a judge, you have to score 80% in line with the judging panel, and then you can become a judge. So I got to test judge, and I learned about natural bodybuilding. I saw the winner, and he looked amazing, and I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to become a WNBF pro. We moved back to California, and then like you said, I competed in 07, I competed in 2009, and then I competed in 2011. And in 2011, I won, and there's a lot of drug-free bodybuilding federations in the States. Too many, if I'm honest. Right, so I've competed with the NGA, National Gym Association. I've competed with INBF, WNBF, obviously. I've competed with INBA and their pro division, PNBA. I have not competed with, but I did get qualified in 2011. So in my third competitive season, I competed in the Nevada State, and I actually won that show. It was very small, and I did get pro qualified. There was 2 divisions, lightweight, heavyweight, and I think there was 3 in the heavies and maybe 4 in the lights. It was for the PNBA, it's tall and short, or tall and medium. And I ended up winning the overall there. The guy who I was going up against in the overall, I think he had a more muscular and leaner physique than me, but he was so green that he didn't know how to display it. So he was pinching his shoulders on the back of the bicep. He was sticking his butt out, so you couldn't even see the striations. And I edged him out for the win because he didn't present himself like a professional. So my physique at this stage, I'll be honest, I was insecure about, because I was 6 foot, kind of lanky. I didn't have the classic bodybuilder structure. I didn't have the size. Early on, I had, you know, quick gains, but then they tapered off. And I started to realize how much of like a dog and pony show bodybuilding is. That it's all about broad shoulders, tiny waist, you know, hip structure, bone structure. And I realized, like, I'm not 5'9", and I don't have a boat for a rib cage, and I kind of have relatively narrow shoulders, at least for bodybuilding. So I've got to do everything in my power to just get every advantage I can. So I was an avid person who practices posing, and I always made sure after my first season, 07, that I was going to come in shape. So I pulled off that win because of my posing and the fact that I maximized what I had on the day. But I knew that pro qualification was turning pro, you know. And in the States, you know, and this is no shade on anyone who has a PNBA pro card. In the States, it's not like a lot of the international PNBA, INBA affiliates, where you typically have to qualify for nationals, go to nationals, win nationals to get a pro card, or then qualify for the Natural Olympia. In the States, if you win a big enough show in the overall, and big enough is not that big. Like I said, I think there was a total of 7 bodybuilders in the show that I won.
Wow.
You can get a pro card, and then you can compete as a pro in pro shows. But around this time in 2011, it was the year before I moved to New Zealand and started my graduate work at AUT, doing my second master's and my PhD. And I knew I wasn't going to compete during that, because that was too important to me. And the thing about graduate work is it's not just studying for yourself, you're conducting research. And in sports science, you're conducting research that should benefit the community, other athletes, coaches, and help them, you know, do what they do better and in a healthier way. So I didn't want to sacrifice that at all. So I knew I wasn't going to compete for years. So I was like, okay, cool. This is a good closing chapter. But I knew I was going to come back, and in the meantime, I was going to build and come back really looking the part of a pro, hopefully.